Asia and South America. He has his master's in agricultural economics from Purdue University, and he's going to talk about the rise in global population and what kinds of strains that will have on our supply. Garrett.
In light of the global population reaching over 7 billion people just a few months ago, that had caused me to pause and think about some of the classes I took back in college, because it was just 10 years ago that the population reached 6 billion people. So here we are a decade later, 1 billion people more. And in 2050, the projections are that we will have about 10.6 billion people. So there will be articles and newspapers and blogs written about how we're going to feed the world, and is there going to be a global food pandemic and food shortage. So I'm here today to talk about those things. I want to address several things. First, I'll talk about what we can expect to happen in the grocery stores. Second, will there be a global pandemic and food shortage? And third, if not, why? So I just gave you a hint on where this speech is headed. To answer the first question, yes, there will be higher grocery store food prices in the short term. The reason is because higher commodity prices. And we can thank largely the rise in China's middle class for that. First of all, we can't ignore that there is a growing population. And second, people are getting wealthier in some of these developing countries, and so they're eating more meat products. But the question of will there be a major food shortage? In 1995, Lester Brown wrote a book, Who Will Feed China? And in that book, he projected that there would be a major catastrophe, an extreme shortage of food. But so far, that hasn't happened. And Lester Brown predicted that because of all of the Chinese imports of food and feed grain products. Why was he wrong? Lester Brown, I believe, had missed the mark because he didn't look at the supply side of the equation. He looked solely at demand. It's not to say that he won't be right down the road, but why that projection or prediction never occurred today that is why. So let's look at supply just briefly. What Lester had failed to recognize was that historical production trends in agriculture have been on the rise. When you look back in the 1960s and 70s, there was probably 60 or 70 bushels per acre for corn on average. About 20 years ago, it was 130 bushels per acre. Now, 20 years later, it's about 160 bushels per acre. So anyway, it's on the rise, which, when you look at the last 20 years, it's about 1,800 pounds or 1,700 pounds of corn, additional corn per acre. So that is the reason why I don't believe there will be a major food shortage. There will be some struggles along the way. There are some countries in Asia that are predicted to have some serious crises on their hands. But as a whole, I think the rise in the supply between the U.S. and Brazil and other large countries will meet that growing demand. So today, I share with you what we can expect to see in the local grocery stores. And then I talked about why there's demand with the rising population, as well as the rising middle class in some of the developing countries. And last, why I don't think that we're going to have a major pandemic on our hands right away, or anytime in the next decade. So that was, hopefully, Mr. Toastmaster.